Yo, do you remember watching Naked and Afraid on TV back in the days, just thinking to yourself, yo, I could totally do this? Criticizing the softies for having the nerve to tap out after only 2 weeks in the wilderness. And you're there like eating popcorn, sitting on your couch. Yeah, like, so hiking and just backpacking looked easy on YouTube until I tried it. Then I got out there and it was heavy packs and blisters and inclement weather and forgetting gear at home and just every rookie mistake in the book. You know, I'm a rookie backpacker learning the hard way, just failing forward 1 mile at a time on trail. But every mistake that I've made has taught me a lesson. And I try to learn from my mistakes. So today I'm sharing the lessons that helped me hike smarter, pack lighter, and suffer a little bit less. So hopefully that will help you skip that rookie curve and just get to the good part. Plus, today I'm going to be sharing with you my method of how I take these failures, convert them into lessons learned that stick, so I remember and apply them for future trips. But first, clip your toenails. That's lesson number 1. I'm serious. Clip your toenails, dude. Not the night before the trip, a few days before the trip, because you don't want to go out there with freshly cut edges. You ever been out backpacking on the downhills? You feel the front of your toes just slamming into the front of your trail runners like you owe them rent. Downhill terrain will humble you. No matter how tight you laced your boots or how hard you tried sidestepping like a drunk crab, this is a lesson learned. Huge mistake. If you skip this step, you'll be the first one limping with black toenails on day 1. Clip your toenails. I buy most of my gear from direct-to-consumer manufacturers' websites or GarageGrownGear.com, which is a platform for cottage companies to sell their products. However, if it wasn't for REI, dude, I would be lost. I don't know how you feel about REI, and I know they got funky political views and all that, but I really don't care. The REI membership, it's definitely worth it, and I always tell people, go ahead and grab it. You pay one time. I mean, I thought it was a scam when the first time that I went to, I was a super rookie. Like, I had no nothing, and I was just trying to buy stuff. And they were telling me about this membership, and it's $30 one time for life. And they give you a $30 coupon to use, and so it's literally free. And then on top of that, at the end of the year, you get rewards. I went ahead and did it. They were talking about a resupply. I had no idea what a resupply is. And then they started telling me, dude, and then anything you buy, you have up to a year to bring it back. What do you mean? Like, I could use it and beat the shit out of it and then bring it back 364 days later? And you guys will take it back and give me my money back? And they were like, yeah. So I've made a point to buy stuff from REI that I'm not sure about to be able to test it out and actually return it if it doesn't work out. And I said, well, I bought some underwears here that I really didn't care for, and I'm not going to return that. And she said, why not? We'll take them. And I was like, dude, I wore those underwears. And she was like, yeah, just wash them and bring them back. And I was like, nah. But they were like $50 underwear. And I was kind of like, damn, dude, like, I'm not going to use these shits. And it's $50. I needed $50. So I put them in a Publix bag. And I remember walking into the REI kind of like, dun, 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 dun. There wasn't a lot of people in there. And I kind of snuck up to the front counter. And I was like, hey, I'm going to return this. And I slid it up on the front counter. Hey, it's some underwear. And I was told I could do it. I was kind of like, don't make a big scene out of it. The clerk was like, I got you. He knew what time it was. He typed it up. He looked up my stuff. And sure enough, bro, he gave me my $50 back onto my card. And that's when I was like, damn, dude, like REI. So REI has been clutch. REI has been clutch, especially the membership. I must have spent a ton of money that year at REI because I got $150 back at the end of the year. And dude, I bought a pair of OnClouds with my rewards. Like, I highly suggest. That was a lesson learned. Being able to return merch. I've bought so many pillows that weren't worth to shit, but every single pillow that I've bought, I've made a point of buying it at REI so I could be able to return it. Treat your clothes with permethrin. I remember coming home one time from a trip and I was in the shower and I felt something on my side and I jumped out the shower, looked in the mirror, and there was a tick. I went ahead and pulled it off and realized that there was 2 ticks latched on in the same spot on my side. And I freaked the fuck out. I remember I put the ticks in a Ziploc bag and saved it so I could actually have it tested. There were Lone Star ticks. And I went down a rabbit hole doing a bunch of research about ticks. But during my research of ticks, I came across a product called permethrin. So permethrin for gear and clothing, picaridin for your skin. Ever since I started using both of these products, I have not had another tick latch onto me. I've seen ticks on me, but they're normally doing the drunk salsa dance as they're kind of freaking out and dying. It kills ticks on contact. It'll actually murder! And even swamp mosquitoes treat me like expired soup. Don't sacrifice comfort for comfort. That phrase lives rent-free in my head whenever I'm packing up for a trip. The way I see it is, yeah, it's cool to try to go ultralight because then while you're hiking, it's really comfortable to be able to hike with a very light pack. However, if you're trading comfort at camp for comfort while you're hiking, then, you know, there needs to be a balance. There needs to be a balance. I mean, there's some people that can go without a inflatable sleeping bag or a pillow, or there's people that don't get cold at night. I'm not going to sacrifice comfort at camp for comfort on the trail, and vice versa. I'm not gonna try to be ultra light for the sake of being ultra light, but at the same time, I don't want to carry the heaviest shit around either. Don't sacrifice comfort for comfort. Just to piggyback off of that one, best gear for me is always better than the best gear for you. Best gear for you is always better than the best gear for me. So if there's something that works for you, yeah, you can recommend it. And that's actually cool. That's great. Somebody might be able to try it out. There's people that have told me, oh, you gotta use this pack. And then, you know, I try it and then it's like, But it really depends. The best gear for me is always going to be better than the best gear for you. Like, for example, I've seen people criticize tent footprints where they would say, I would never carry a tent footprint. And I actually think my tent footprint is one of my prized possessions when I'm backpacking. I actually keep my tent footprint separate from the tent and keep it in the outer pocket of my pack so it's readily accessible because it's one of the first things that I use when I get to the campsite. I also keep it there because it's an emergency shelter because I use it as a tarp in case of rain. Throw on my rain gear and just kind of hunker down somewhere and I want to use it as a tarp. Or if I just want to put my pack down and cover my pack with it and let the storm pass, I use it in that sense as well. I also use it to check the level of the ground before I commit to a tent spot. So all those different uses that I just mentioned, and I didn't even mention its intended purpose, protecting the bottom of my tent floor. So, you ever hit the trail, drop your pants, and then realize that your trowel bends like a wet noodle? That's a you problem. Test everything before you go. Tent, filter, pad, stove, trowel, including your trowel. Do a backyard shakedown and fail on your terms, not when it's dark and you're starving. I'll tell people to skimp out on certain gear, like, dude, you don't need that, you don't need that. The one time I tell people to invest money, invest in your sleep. Quality sleeping pad, quality quilt, and quality pillow for quality sleep. If you don't get quality sleep when you're out in the backcountry, then you won't get quality hikes. Investing in your sleep also means if you need to bring some earplugs, eye masks, some melatonin. If you're the type of person who's nervous at nighttime out in the woods, find ways to calm those nerves. It's prioritizing sleeping by bringing what is needed in order for you to get quality sleep. Become a Wudlum. And there's only 2 steps to this one. But right down there, hit the subscribe button. It's right there. Hit the subscribe button. And then after this video, get out there and get feral. 2 steps, and that's it. Welcome to the pack. You just became the invasive species. Always bring electrolytes, because sweat isn't just hydration leaving the body, it's betrayal. What the fuck? Your environment decides what's fair, not you. Another thing that I've recommended to people is a satellite communicator. I think all of them require a subscription. I have the Garmin Mini InReach 2. It's an expensive piece of gear. It gives you connectivity where you could actually text. You can also get weather reports for the area in which you're hiking in. But you have that SOS button available to you in case of an emergency. And if you value your life, I think it's a small price to pay to be able to have that safety and that peace of mind when you're out in the backcountry. If you make the same mistake twice, then you didn't suffer enough the first time. Steal ideas from other hikers. Whenever I go hiking with anybody, I'm always observing how they do things. I'm not criticizing. I'm not offering any type of advice either, because unsolicited advice rarely goes well received. But I'm always observing. I'm looking at their gear, their methods of setting up camp, hiking. If they have a good idea, I point it out. Yo, that's actually a pretty nifty piece of gear, or that's actually a pretty nifty way of doing things. I might use that. Yo, I like the way that works. I might try that out. I guarantee you, they're going to be flattered. They're not going to be mad that you're using their technique. Whenever I go out on trail, I always keep a cooler in the back of my truck with some ice and some cold beverages, a soda, a beer, ginger ale, whatever tickles your pickle. For me, it's sparkling water. I also like fresh fruit, cold mango or pineapple chunks. I absolutely love that. For me, it's normally LaCroix and a bowl of fruit from Publix. And that just makes me happy at the end of any type of hike. The only way I get things to stick is by writing it down. I'm still a paper and pencil person. And in order for me to remember something, I have to kind of write it down. So I bring a little tiny journal with me whenever I backpack. And every night I'll sit there and I just kind of jot down just small things. Anything that made an impression on me that day, the mileage for the day, what time I started hiking and what time I finished hiking. As I'm packing my bags, I'll look at my last entries and see if there's any homework that I need to do prior to heading out to the next trip. I also like to take a lot of pictures, videos, and with this YouTube channel, one of the reasons I started it was to be able to document and immortalize my trips. One of my whys is now I have another excuse to actually be able to get out there a little bit more and do the things that I actually love. By documenting and immortalizing my trips, I'm able to review what went right and what went wrong during my editing process, and I learn from it. That's the way that actually helps me remember these failures and these lessons learned for future reference. I like to take pictures, take videos. I like to have fun and be in the moment. A lot of times I don't record and I don't take pictures because I'm just out there sitting in the moment, just watching the stars at night, listening to the sounds in nature, and drinking my coffee, enjoying my snacks, enjoying the company if I'm out with friends, or enjoying my solitude and enjoying my thoughts if I'm out by myself. That's what it's all about. Getting dirty, getting tired, laughing at your failures, singing off key into the canyon. You're doing something that most people only watch on YouTube. And you know what? That's the real hack. Having fun while you figure it out. Fail forward. Be free. Be feral. If you enjoy doing that and want to keep doing that, check this one out.